How do you define creativity?
I have no idea what I'm doing, but I know I'm doing it really, really well.
If I just had met you, like, how would you introduce yourself to me? Because I know what you do, but honestly, I don't know all of what you do. And I know it's more than just the HGAB. So,
Right.
yeah.
So my name is Kendrick. It's weird to say that. My name is Kendrick. First and foremost, I am an entrepreneur. I consider myself an entrepreneur. And the only reason I am an entrepreneur is because my parents were entrepreneurs, and I saw, the ins and outs of their businesses as I was growing up. And I knew by the time I was about 6 years old that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, that I didn't want to work for anybody. And around that time, I started my first business.
What was that?
I would sell golf balls
Wow.
back to golfers because where we lived, I lived behind a golf course. And from like 7 a.m. to about 5 p.m. every single day, I had golfers coming through. And after the golf course would close, I would go and scavenge for golf balls. And I had little spots that I knew these golfers were losing their golf balls and all this stuff. And then I would grab those golf balls and sell them back to the golfers the next day. And I would sell them for $1.
Wow.
And from there, the business boomed. And then I started to sell sodas and chips.
What did the golf course think about that?
They loved it, because I was selling it in my backyard. So they really couldn't tell me anything. I was in my own property.
And you found.
And after it closes, you're allowed to walk the golf course because it was a small fence, and you just hop the fence. Actually, there was breaks in the fence where you could just walk through. And golfers started to notice that I would go out there, so they would drive up literally to my fence line looking for me. And yeah, I sold golf balls. I sold sodas, waters, chips, all kinds of stuff. And it was fun. It was my first business.
So you had an entrepreneurial mindset from like almost the get-go.
Yeah.
And that's obviously like a lot of guests that we have, like it's similar story where their parents kind of instilled that in them. But you knew like immediately, it wasn't even like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur.
100%.
And what did your parents do that?
So my parents are originally from Venezuela. My dad owns still a transport business. So, their businesses evolved as time went by. So my dad would transport people back and forth from Orlando to Miami. He had a 15 passenger van. From there, his business evolved into more of the medical field. So now what he does is, have you ever heard of the company Brinks, where they transport money and checks and all kinds of stuff? Yeah. So his company is very similar to that, but they only work in the medical field. So they'll go and pick up checks and cash from medical offices, and they deposit those in certain banks, in different banks around the city, which is pretty cool.
But it's interesting that you like lead with entrepreneur, because most creatives that I talk to are like, I'm a creative or a videographer or this or that, but you're very like confident in saying like, I'm an entrepreneur, which sometimes I'm like I question myself, like I am an entrepreneur technically, but am I, like, is that my lead or,
Right.
But like, where did you kind of stumble onto the creative aspect of?
So I consider myself to be a creative entrepreneur.
Creativepreneur.
Creativepreneur, yes. Right. Because my second, passion is photography, and now film. So, I would always watch movies. As a kid, I love watching movies. And my favorite movie is Saving Private Ryan. And as a kid, I watched that movie.
It's a long one, too.
When I saw that movie, that movie changed my whole life. The way that thing was shot, that opening
scene's always iconic.
Yeah. And that's what made me, it's a gory movie about World War II, and there's a lot of blood and stuff like that. But I was a kid. I already knew that that's a movie. Obviously, it's based on true history. But, the way that thing was shot, I was just like, how? And from there on, I started making war movies as a kid.
No way.
With my mom bought me a little film camera, like a little VHS tape little camera, and I would go to the backyard, the golf course. I would get all my friends together, and we were filming war movies back there. with like, camo that we would find like at Goodwill, like fake guns. I would make explosion scenes on the sand dunes of the golf course, uh, by literally grabbing a plank of wood, like kind of like a catapult, and then piling up a bunch of sand on one side, and then when you like stepped on this thing would like go up, and
creative, dude.
That was our movies. And I always got like an A+ in film class and all this stuff because I was so excited about making movies with my friends.
It's so interesting how like those, you're not thinking about it at that moment. You're just having fun with your friends because you love to make movies. But then like fast forward years, it's like that's actually a very valuable skill.
100%.
And industry.
And I think about it now, I'm like, I'm a filmmaker, and back then I was doing it for fun, and it kind of like transitioned over to actually becoming something for me. So that was very exciting. And that's how I got into the studio business and all that stuff, because it's a long story. It's such a long story. And I'm here to tell it if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
The way everything kind of came about was me buying a camera when I was about right out of high school.
But this whole time you were still making movies, like creating with your friends. Like you weren't essentially pursuing a professional career, or you were
as a filmmaker,
or no, as like anything else, like going to school or.
Well, yeah. So as a kid, let's say I was making movies, middle school with my friends, high school with my friends. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I'm the kind of person, I always try things, and for me, failing is amazing. A lot of people are afraid of failing, but for me, failing, if you're failing, you're trying.
Right.
And the cool thing about failing is you learn so much from it that then you kind of pivot and do it again, but maybe a little bit different.
And you're not scared.
So after making movies, I actually joined a band later in high school. And I started to tour the country with this band. Wow. Because for me, it's 0 to 100. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to see it through. If I'm going to be a musician, I'm going to be a musician.
What did you play?
I used to play bass, and I was the lead singer.
Wow.
So
I can see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the front man, always the front man. And that actually taught me a lot of lessons on how to manage a team. Because a lot of people...
Especially in a band.
Where
it's all creatives on like the most level.
Yeah. But lucky for me, I was creative entrepreneur.
Right.
Creativepreneur. So I saw the creative side, which is the music, but I also saw the business side of music. So my band leaned on me heavy to book the gigs, create all the merch, manage the money, manage the team, because we're a team.
Right.
Manage literally everything. All they had to do was show up. And we would practice every single day without fail. And we would play a lot of shows. And then I started booking shows all over the country. And we just would, piece together as much money as humanly possible. So, for example, whenever we would have to go on tour, we would either get jobs to raise money to go on tour, or we would sell like water on the street.
Damn.
To like make money. So you see us like on 8th Street, like with our guitars and a sign like, hey, we're going on tour. Like, and any donation helps. We weren't really selling the water. We were just trying to get donations, and nobody would ever give us $1.
Yeah, it's you're competing with like Little League football and like.
No, but people would give us $5, $10, $20. Because I'm also a great salesperson. So anytime somebody would ask me, oh, where are you guys going on tour? I would give them the whole spiel, the whole thing. And like people, I would connect with people, which is super important. And they would just give us $20, $100, like, and that's how we would make money to pay for gas, for food, and all that stuff on tour.
What was the name of your band?
It was called Not Here Now.
Not Here Now.
Which is very funny because I basically signed the death of the band with that name. Not here now. But again, that having that band taught me so much about entrepreneurship and how to be a leader and how to manage a business, because a lot of people, like you said, creatives create.
Yeah.
But there's a whole business side of being a creative. that a lot of creatives don't really understand. And that's where they have a lot of friction, where they focus so heavy on the creation, but not on the business side, that they kind of burn themselves out
Yeah.
because they notice that they're not making money, that, they have 50 pieces of artwork that they haven't sold. And like they just kind of get discouraged. Like, I want to make this my life. But they forget that there's a whole business behind this whole thing.
Yeah, that always seems to be like the friction of the creator, of where it's almost they get frustrated because maybe they haven't put the energy to figure that out, or they think like, nah, like I don't need that, like it'll just come because
Right.
I'm a creative and my
Right.
work. And but then you just find out like there's only so much of like your work that can just speak for itself. Like you also even if that does happen, you have to be ready
Yeah.
to capitalize on
Yeah,
that.
100%. And a lot of people think that they're gonna create something and then people are just gonna come, but they forget, like, hey, you need to create it and then you have to show it to the masses. You need to show it to people to be able to sell it. And a lot of creatives have that little bit of a disconnect there.
And how are you able to, because that's a whole other business. Like, I mean, managing a team and managing people and personalities is hard. But then when they're all creatives, like musicians, or now in HGAB, like, actual creators within your space of creatives, like that's a whole other skill set.
Yeah. I think as a leader, it's important to sell the dream to people, because you're creating something from nothing. And the cool thing about working with creatives is that they have a vision, right? Like, they can see it. And if you can show it to them in their minds, then they're like, oh, okay, I know what you're trying to do. They can imagine it. Some people are they don't have the imagination.
Right. And that's what happens when you talk to someone that's more business oriented. They can't give you the image because they're just like, no, bro, the numbers will make sense. Or this, that. And then that's the disconnect always. Yeah.
So as a creative and an entrepreneur, I'm able to sell the visions, especially when it's not there, So I think it's cool because I'm able to speak the language of creatives, but still have that backbone of an entrepreneur and a business person.
Yeah, that's always like the double. Like if you could have those two, you're almost set up for success.
I think every creative should take either a business class, an entrepreneurship class, like a finance class, because they will set themselves up for success, and a marketing class.
Yeah, an everything class.
I just named all the aspects of a business there.
Exactly.
There's marketing, there's research and development, there's actual production, there's finance, there's, so if you're somewhat well-rounded, jack of all trades, then I think you could be very successful as a creative.
Yeah, and they always say, like, if you're a CEO of a business, you should at least know what every aspect of your business entails, or how to do certain things, not like to the T or like how your team would do it,
right?
But you should know how it works so you understand better.
100%.
It's creative business is tough.
Business is tough,
exactly,
and then you're trying to tie in the creative aspect of it into it. It can get tough.
So then why did you think HGAB opening a studio would be a genius idea?
Well, after we toured the country as a band, I slowly but surely started to realize the music business was not the business for me. And I started to kind of see what the future was going to look like as far as a creative future. Because in that time, YouTube was picking up steam. And I saw these YouTube channels and all these creatives creating blogs and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, dude, this is super cool. At the time, Vice was a huge platform. And I was like, once I stopped touring and once we stopped like the band, I bought a camera and I was like, I want to start an online publication. And I want to go into the marketing and media side of things, because I know that if you know marketing and you know media, you can sell anything to anybody.
And you were doing it with your band.
And I was doing it with the band already. So, and I was seeing loopholes in when I was in the band, I was seeing loopholes of like, what I would want in a band, like let's say if I would have stayed in the band, how I would have loved to run a media and marketing agency for bands, for example. And I was looking at all that, and I was like, for any brand, for any business, you need a marketing strategy and you need amazing content to push that stuff. So I was like, why don't we get into that world? So we started an online publication called HGAB. And with that, we started to create content for ourselves and for the readers. And little by little, companies started to come to us because they started to see the content being pumped out on hgabmag.com. And they were like, hey, can you create a video for me? Hey, can you shoot my product for me?
And this was early on.
This was probably like 14 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. And I started to see that and I was like, man, there's something here. So at that time I was living with my parents still. And again, I always wanted to take flight fast. You know, my mom always says, like, Ken, if I didn't hold you down by 13, you were out of here already. And I was, because I was already like thinking about touring and all this stuff. And like, I was trying to get out of the house as fast as possible, not because I didn't love my parents. And I had a beautiful upbringing and a safe home and all that good stuff and a supportive family. But I just wanted to see the world. I wanted to explore by myself. I didn't want to go with my parents. I wanted to go with my friends. So during that time, when we started to get a little bit more traction on the magazine and companies asking us to create content for them, I decided to move out of our home, out of my parents' house, and rent a house with what are still now my partners. So, you know, at that time, I had already met Biscayne, my business partner and my life partner. I had already met Chris, my business partner. And when we rented that house, I got reintroduced to Mariana, my other business partner. And from that house, we built a little studio because we needed a studio to create content, not only for the publication, but also for the other entities and the brands that were asking us to create content. And that's kind of where the whole idea of, like, you know, having a studio and everything came to be.
So you created like a content house without even really...
I created a content house. That's
what they call it now. Like, they get a bunch of young influencers, but
yeah,
like, that was what essentially you were doing.
Yeah, 100%. And we were writing a lot of like blogs for the online publication, but I was also seeing that, you know, this is gonna die out eventually. Like reading, unfortunately, you know, reading is important. But I was seeing the future of like what media was looking like, especially with having it online. Yeah, that people wanted to see more videos. And still now, people want to see more videos. Video is king.
Yeah, and back then, like a lot of people, you know, for whatever reason, well, it was beneficial to have blogs and writing, and it still is to some point now. But because of the SEO, everyone was always like, you know, because your website, because that was what everyone was focused on. But they didn't know that eventually you could get eyeballs creating your own content. It didn't have to be written word.
Exactly. Yeah, and like, you know, who has the time to sit there and read a huge? I mean, I still read a lot, but again, the masses are telling us, hey, I'd rather see a 3-minute video than reading this huge, you know, 10,000 word essay.
Yeah, and even then, now I get like my email, it'll ask me, do you want to summarize this?
100%.
AI? And I'm like, damn, my email's already like a 2-minute email. Now I'm getting it 30 seconds. Like,
well, and then BuzzFeed was actually pushing that narrative too. They were getting such great traction off the listicles. They weren't writing this huge publication, these huge articles like Vice was doing, and Vice was creating really dope video content, but they were also writing a lot of stuff. But BuzzFeed was doing a bunch of listicles, and everybody was eating up the listicles. So it was giving me the idea of like, people want to see something quick and easy, and when they want to be entertained, they want to be informed. Video is going to be it. Video and visuals, pictures as well. So little by little, we started to harness with having that home studio. We actually landed our biggest client thus far. I don't want to say thus far. Our biggest client then, which was actually Fendi.
Wow.
So Fendi reached out, and through some connects that I had and stuff like that, and they wanted us to start creating content for them. But funny enough, they wanted to fly to Miami and see and meet us and see where we were creating all these things out of. And we were doing this from our house in like next to Dolphin Mall,
Right.
you know, and we were like, dude, we can't bring Fendi here. You know, they're going to look at us and be like, you guys are nuts. There's no way that my brand is going to fit in with you guys creating content out of the living room of your house. You know, and this was like a fun house. Like we built out not only did we build out a full studio, but we also built out like a home entertainment area, like our own little movie theater. Like, you know, we were smoking weed out of there. We were like just having a blast, you know, for creatives, young creatives, like doing whatever the hell we wanted, skating, this, that, and the other. Like it was very like I don't know, just fun and creative, you know? So we were forced to grow. And this was such a really cool moment for us because, you know, when you start something, you never really know where it's going to go. You have an idea, but now looking back at it, I'm just like, whoa, like this is crazy. From where we started to where we are now, it's insane. So Fendi wanted to have a meeting with us, wanted to see our studios. We were living out of a house, creating content out of the house. So we were like, why don't we look for a place tentatively just to have this meeting with Fendi where it's a commercial space, but we dress it up and we make it look like that's it, right? And lo and behold, we go on Craigslist and we find the location in which we are in now.
Wow.
And we were like, we're kind of torn because we only have enough money to have a space to live. We don't have enough money to rent a place to live and also rent a place to work and have our office.
Yeah.
So we were like, hey, like Wynwood is an up and coming neighborhood. A lot of our creative friends are living out of these warehouses. Why don't we try to find something in that same realm? And that's what we set out to do. And we searched up Craigslist and we find this location. And as soon as we step foot, and I'm not even saying inside the space, I'm saying like on the lot of where we are, I fell in love immediately. Immediately, something was calling my name that this was the place. This is the first and only place that we saw on Craigslist.
Damn.
As soon as the landlady came downstairs, we met her. She was super cool. We gave her the rundown. We were like, hey, listen, we're 4 young entrepreneurs and creatives. We need a place to live and we need a place to call our office to grow our business. And she was like,
Living, I don't know.
I don't know about that. And the cool thing about that building is it's zoned to live and work because that building has 2 apartments upstairs. But we weren't looking at the apartments. We couldn't afford the apartments upstairs. We were looking at the warehouse that was like downstairs.
But it's zoned, part of it.
But it's zoned. So I gave her the rundown. I was like, hey, your building is to live and work because I did my research. It's possible. Just give us an opportunity. A week went by. 2 weeks went by. I would call her. Nothing. One day I called her out of the blue from another phone line. And I was like, hey, I'm afraid you're not taking me serious. And I need you to take me serious because this is what I want to do. And this is how I want to do it. And I know you're taking a chance. And I want to tell you that I'm not going to let you down. Obviously, she's like, I want to get paid.
Yeah.
You know, I want to make sure that I'm getting my rent every single month. I have these 4 young guys that they don't know what the fuck they're doing yet. They have a somewhat of a startup, but I don't really trust it. And she goes, okay, let's try it. I'll give you guys a chance.
And when was that Fendi meeting?
That Fendi meeting was, thankfully, we had time. It was like a month out. So everything kind of happened. Lined up. Our lease in the house was coming up. We had already found the location, but not really secured it. And until I made that phone call. And honestly, I want to say like 2 days later, we were already moved in. Like we were ready to rock. You know, we let go of the house, which was a beautiful place to start. But we moved into a warehouse, 4 individuals, okay, with 2 cats, with nothing but hopes and dreams. And the layout of of the warehouse was cool, which is now Studio A. For those who have ever shot at HGAB Studios or have ever come to the studio, so we lived and worked out of Studio A. Damn. We built a whole home in the back of the studio. Nobody ever knew that we lived there. The only people that knew that we lived there were our friends and our families, close people, but nobody else knew that we lived there. We made makeshift like rooms. We built out a full kitchen, a full bathroom. Like we were set. Like I made sure, you know, Biscayne, my partner, she's like, Ken, are we gonna be uncomfortable? And I'm like, yes.
For sure.
We're gonna be very uncomfortable, but that discomfort is gonna catapult us to the next level. Okay, so it's up to us to get out of that comfort, out of that uncomfortable zone, right? To be uncomfortable, to then be comfortable. And lo and behold, dude, we lived there for 5 years. Damn. As our business grew and the space grew. So we started off with that one space. Then I caught wind of our neighbor next door moving out, which was a hair salon business. And I was like, damn, he's moving out. It's a really cool space. I don't know what I'm going to do with this space. But and at that time, more and more people were asking us to rent our studios, which was very cool because when we first moved into that office, we didn't have the idea of renting studios. We just had our studio
for your use,
for our own use and for our clients. But as more and more, we started to make more and more friends in Wynwood, more photographers were coming up to us and coming to our house/office. And we're like, dude, like, wow, we didn't know you had this here. Can I rent this from
like
you?
Organic too. Like.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, of course. And at the beginning, I was just like lending it to them. I was like, come and use it. We're not using it every single day like that. And more people were asking us like, hey, can I come to the studio? Can I rent the studio? Can I do this? And I was like, damn, there might be a business here where we have the media business, our production house, and then we could create a little side hustle just renting studios. Why not do that? So that's what we did. We started to rent a studio at super low rates. I think we started renting studios at like $30 an hour, which is unthinkable, unheard of now.
Yeah.
And then the space opened up next door. There was no space next door to have a studio, but I knew that I wanted that space. Why did I want that space? No freaking clue. Like, but I wanted it. I wanted it. I can do something with this space. When the salon moved out, we moved in, and I moved in, or I signed the lease without telling my partners.
Wow.
And I sat down at the table one day and I was like, hey, so now we have the space next door. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah, like I took a risk. I'm sorry. I took a risk.
You're a risk taker.
And so, totally.
I could tell.
And they were like, what the fuck, Ken? Like, first of all, you didn't tell us. Second of all, like, what are we going to do with that space? And I'm like, we're going to figure it out. Don't worry. The universe is on our side, you know? And it is. It's crazy. So then we were like, what the fuck do we do with this space? I was like, well, I hear co-working is a cool thing happening right now because I see this place popping up. I see this place popping up. We have a studio. Those co-working spaces don't have studios. Why don't we start a co-working space that if you're a member of our co-working space, you can use the studio? And then my partners were like, oh, that's kind of fucking cool. That's kind of a cool idea. No entrepreneur signed up for a co-working membership. It was all artists. Every single person that we filled in that co-working space was artists.
It was almost the opposite. Like they wanted your studio and then they got a space to work if like they wanted to.
Well, it's funny because the artists that we signed up for the co-working space didn't care about the studios. They just wanted a place to create their art.
Right.
And it's Wynwood at that time,
right,
which is still which was the Wild West back then. And you have a bunch of graffiti artists, you have a bunch of artists, like up and coming artists that just needed a place to call home to paint.
That you were having like an artist incubator.
100%. And it happened organically.
Yeah.
We weren't necessarily looking to make that an artist incubator, but the people that were coming to us were all artists because we were in that scene. And all we were doing was just naturally like, oh yeah, we have a cool space. You should come check it out one day. I think you would really like it. And then they would step in and be like, I want to live here.
That's that's what's happening in this place too.
Yeah,
It's like
I want to be here. This fucking place is cool, and it has a bunch of cool people
exactly
and opportunities.
the environment and the atmosphere is like
That's
contagious.
everything. It's everything, especially for an artist and entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
The environment and the people that you hang around with every single day, that is what you're really selling.
Exactly.
And a lot of people need to really understand that. So we filled the whole place up with artists. And we had paintings on the walls. We had artists painting everywhere. They were out painting graffiti outside. They were tagging everything. And I was just like, go for it. Have fun. I'm like, yes, I'm technically your landlord, but like do whatever the hell you want. As long as you don't burn down the place. My only rule for the studio from then to now is don't burn the place down.
Did you ever have like any issues with any? Because I mean, they are artists at the end of the day, so
Yeah.
they can be a little.
Till this day, I've never had an issue with any of our co-working tenants because of the way that I think we run the place. I always tell everybody, these are not my studios. These are not my spaces. These are our spaces. So they get a sense of ownership and they look after the place. At any given time at HGAB, there's people there. 3 o'clock in the morning, there's people there. Like every single day. And they're working. Now the co-working aspect has transitioned into more filmmakers, photographers, like business owners. But even now, at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, you go to HGAB and there's people there working. And I love that. There's people there that spend more time at HGAB than they do at home. And even my own team that we employ, they don't want to go home. On their days off, they're at HGAB hanging out because the environment is like that. And I love that. I always wanted to create a place where you wanted to come to because you genuinely enjoyed it, not because you were getting paid.
And I think that's like something that, like you were saying, is kind of often overlooked, because it's almost the most important thing. Like, yeah,
the culture,
everything you're doing within the walls and creating and the quality of it and all that is important. But like if the vibe, and like some people don't understand when you're like, the vibe just isn't right, or you're like, the vibe in there, it's like, but it's a real thing. And like now we're starting to experience it where we're able to identify like, oh, this cannot be in here.
The vibe, you can't see it or touch it, but it's a thing.
100%.
And it's in the forefront of things. It's not the back like, oh, the place is beautiful and stuff like that. I don't like the people, so I'm still going to go. Yeah, you're going to go for a couple of months, and then you're going to fizzle out because you hate being there. Subconsciously, you're going to start to feel a little weird.
Yeah.
What everybody tells me about HGAB is that the vibes are there. And I always tell people, anybody can have a space with lights, cameras, microphones. Anybody can have a space with all that stuff. But what makes HGAB stand apart from every other place is the vibe and the way that we make you feel when you're there and the way that you feel when you're there. You feel like you want to be there. You just generally want to be there because there's something there that just attracts people.
100%. And you leave the space inspired. Like I was telling them, like that's one of the first places I would go that I was like, oh, like this type of thing is possible.
Yeah.
And also when I was in there, whether it was a photo shoot or shooting videos or whatever it was, you just leave there like, yo, fuck, I have more ideas. I got to come back. Or like, cause you see like the energy and the people in there doing other stuff, or you're doing a photo shoot, but then you walk by and someone's doing a podcast. Like, why haven't I done a podcast?
100%.
You're like, that looks super cool. I like the vibe in there. And it's like, it's contagious, bro. And that's like, we have to protect that aspect at all costs because it's almost the most important thing.
For me, it is.
Yeah.
For me, it's the most important thing. Like, just we want people to feel good when they get there. And because we're creatives, but we're also entrepreneurs, we thought about how to create that too. I always give the example that I don't go to barbershops. Only because I've always had a bad experience at barbershops. When you walk into a barbershop, I don't know about now, but when you walk into when I used to walk into a barbershops, you would walk in, nobody would greet you.
That was a standard.
You would walk in and you felt like a deer in the headlights. Like, is anybody like what?
Especially when you're young. It's like,
Yeah,
fuck.
you're a kid and like you walk in all scared. You know, you're about to meet the barber that's gonna probably cut your hair for the rest of your life because that's how we are. And nobody says hi to you. Nobody like, oh, how can I help you? Like this. I'm hoping that now
Yeah,
that's
kinda
the
a little
standard.
better.
But I was like, no, I don't ever want to feel like that. You know, I'll eat at a restaurant not because the food is good. The food has to be good, but because I feel good when I'm there and they treat me nice. Like as an entrepreneur, I've cut out any business that doesn't make me feel special.
Mm.
And that's super important as an entrepreneur to make your clients and and the people that you're serving feel special. And as an artist, it's the same exact thing. You need to make people feel special and especially if you're trying to sell them something.
Yeah, 100%.
You know?
And sometimes you go into business, maybe it wasn't like the best work or the best option, but you guys vibe the best, and then that in turn will probably create a better result because just because you have that vibe that you're able to communicate and talk to each other. Whereas maybe this person's better at whatever it is, but you're like,
You don't have that relationship.
exactly.
This year, for me, is all about relationships. That is the most important thing for everyone, for every human doing anything. Is a relationship with another human that you can connect with, you can relate to, you can bounce ideas off. Like if you don't have someone to bounce ideas off, then you're kind of like in the dark a little bit.
100%,
You know?
bro.
And for us at HGAB Studios, we've created such great relationships with the people that use our space on a daily basis that they won't go anywhere else. Even if we like raise the price tenfold and this and the other, which we have, and we, you know, you can see the people that we don't have a relationship with going elsewhere, but the people that we do have a super strong relationship, they're like, I don't care how much this place costs.
Right.
I'm going to continue to be here. Not only because I feel great coming here, you guys make me feel super special, but the product is consistent. The space is clean. The vibes are there. Like, you know, it's a little bit of a combination of everything, but I think that relationship and the way you feel in the space is at the forefront.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And how has the business changed like over the years, especially how Wynwood has changed as well? Like how you have to like pivot or change the model?
Before COVID, the business was one thing. After COVID, the business changed tenfold because financially things changed for people. You know, I think the biggest boom for us happened a little bit right after COVID. We had our most members, our studios were slammed that we were looking for a second location, and we just couldn't house any more people at HGAB because people had money in their pocket. You know, a little stimmy goes a long way.
A little stimmy goes a long way.
You know? And once the stimmy runs out and jobs are, you know, the job market is declining and the economy is going to shit and inflation is through the roof, then people are looking at studios as a, you know, not, I don't want to say unobtainable, but it's
not essential.
It's not essential, you know, and people are popping up studios in their home, which makes sense as a creative. You're trying to make money, put money in your pocket. Studios cost X amount. Clients don't really have the budget that they used to have before, or like the smaller clients, you know, let's be fair. There's tiers. And they're like, hey, I could just do this from my house. I can shoot this can from the living room of my house, still produce a great product for the brand. Especially when they're not there.
Right.
You know, obviously if you want to create an experience for people, if you have this as your client, you don't want to bring them to your house. Same reason why you don't want to bring Fendi to your house.
Right.
You know? So that's when they'll go ahead and they'll rent a studio. Bigger brands that have their internal teams, they're not shooting at their house. They're shooting at studios. So that's where our business shifted a little bit from the creative, where we were focusing heavy on the creative, to then more the brands that did and do still have the funding for these campaigns. You know, the lower tier creative may not have the budget, so maybe they're not coming into the studios, but the brands are. So our business pivoted a little bit, not because we wanted to, but because we had to. Because after COVID, the smaller creative, the lower tier creative, didn't have the budgets, but the brands still did. So we shifted a little bit over to the brands. But that's natural evolution of everything. You need to evolve to survive. If we didn't make a hard pivot to servicing more the marketing agencies and the brands, then I don't think we would be here today after COVID.
Yeah, and you can even argue that some brands or agencies sometimes prefer like that raw content that like doesn't need to be in a studio. It's just like from your phone, like authentic, like the guy on a scooter with a cranberry juice.
That's another thing.
Like,
yeah. Which is to me is beautiful.
Yeah.
Because
sure.
I'm all about raw, like human. Like show me that you're a human being, even if you're a brand. Show me that you have at least some human element in your marketing. And with TikTok blowing up, with Instagram blowing up, with all the UGC content, you know, the photographer and the filmmakers are now at another level. Like companies are looking at it and they're like, okay, there's the UGC content, which probably is outperforming the really cool, super produced content. And you're not shooting UGC content necessarily in a studio.
Yeah.
You know?
And that doesn't cost money.
That doesn't cost money. You do it from your house. You know, we know so many creatives that are shooting really awesome things from their house. And it's perfect and it works for them. So for us, it's like, okay, even more to continue to push to the brands and the businesses that need to still shoot the product on a really cool background and this, that, and the other, or like their garments or so on and so forth, because there's still platforms like people's websites. If you're a clothing brand, you don't want an iPhone picture showcasing your garment. You still want a nice digital, beautiful image, you know? So we still get a lot of brands that are shooting in our studio for that purpose. But for social media, no.
Yeah.
For social media, it's all UGC stuff, maybe some really cool overproduced stuff if you're running ads and things like that. But the business has definitely changed, and the business continues to change now with the advancement of AI.
Right.
Which we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. So how have you kind of like adapted to that or started to adapt to that?
First and foremost, Chris, my partner, he's always been the tech guy. So Chris has built all of our platforms. Chris has built our custom integrated calendar on our platform to be able to book our studios through our platform without having to like email us and call us and wait for a confirmation and this and that. No, you go to our website, you book this, there's a calendar, you see the studio that you want, the time that you want, you book it straight to the platform. He's always been the tech guy. He loves tech. So he went back to school for AI to be able to integrate AI and learn as much as AI to be able to integrate into our businesses now. And now we have tech on our platform. Now we have AI that helps us on a day-to-day basis to run our operations. But when it comes to the consumer renting our studios and the advancement of AI, I predict that studios are going to be kind of like obsolete. You know?
In what sense?
Well, brands are booking studios to shoot on a white background and like this and the other. But now with like AI, you can shoot on any background. And with a click of a mouse, you generate whatever background you want in the back, you know, even if it's a white background.
Right.
With advancement of AI, editing these things are super easy now, you know? So I think little by little, studios are going to kind of start to fizzle out as more brands and businesses and creatives are doing more of their stuff in-house.
It almost, I mean, maybe I'm just being hopeful, but it's like, it almost goes back full circle where not the studio of like the white backdrop and the expensive equipment, but like the actual space where you're able to come up with ideas, and the environment and the atmosphere is like now more valuable
Yes.
than like the technical aspect. It's like, not just come here and let's ideate, let's meet, let's vibe, let's, like, you can sell that now
Yes.
versus
100%.
like, yeah, you can borrow my room or whatever you want, but let's come up with something dope that you can maybe shoot at your house.
Yeah.
But in here,
Right.
we come up with it.
I think that's still going to be very important. A place to meet. You know, creatives love to hang out with other creatives and shoot the shit and collaborate and talk about being a creative.
Yeah.
And paint together and grow together and collaborate. Like, I mean, that's what helps small artists elevate themselves, that collaboration. Even musical artists, that's the reason why they collaborate with each other. They're trying to harness someone's audience and create and make it their audience too. And I think that's super important. Spaces where you can go and meet people and still connect with people, that I feel is always going to be a thing because it's human nature. As a human being, I don't particularly like to be alone by myself. I need to connect with other people. If I'm alone by myself, I'm depressed. I need to be with people. And I don't think that's going to go away. The need to be with people. And we also saw it during COVID.
Right.
When everybody was locked down, everybody was going mad. They were going crazy. When things started to open up, everybody was out at restaurants, clubs, like hanging out at the park. Like, we need that. We think we don't, but we need it. So I think those spaces are going to definitely cater more towards just having a centralized space to hang out.
And building the community. Like, because everyone talks about building a community online and this and that, but there's still something, the aspect of physically, like building somewhere where creators can come and collaborate and talk. And I think that's super important. Super
important. And you know, maybe the future of like our studio spaces where you're actually shooting will still be a studio, but it could double as something else, you know, when it's not being used as a studio. A place to work, a place to hang out, a place to, you know, right now we're focusing really heavy on turning our studio spaces after 5 o'clock, when we're not operating as a photo video studio rental space and podcast, into places where people can host seminars and classes and events and things like that, because people are searching for experiences. People, no matter who you are, people want a good, awesome experience. And I think going that route is going to be our best bet.
Yeah, and I think that's like, I guess, the bright side, or I don't know if there's, I mean, there probably is a big negative side to AI and all that, but the bright side is that I feel like now even more the ideas and taste and creativity will like stand out, and those experiences that you're talking about will stand out more, because everything you're gonna, like, I'm already seeing it. Like, I see people reply to emails. I'm like, bro, at least give a little more effort in your ChatGPT.
I know this is ChatGPT, bro.
Like, bro, you didn't even
try.
Like, you copy paste. I'm like, come on. Like, and I'll even throw a jab in there. I'm like, oh, great feedback. Wow, amazing. Like,
yeah, like you thought for yourself. Not really.
Yeah. So like like the people that like really try harder and even use AI to their advantage, but in a creative way, I feel like they're gonna stick out more, because everyone's just gonna do the easy thing.
I'm not afraid of AI. I think, like everything, technology is designed to help us. But I do still feel like the human can realize when they're being bullshit.
Yeah.
When they're being finagled. You know, like you just said right now.
Yeah.
You know when somebody writes an email, and you know when ChatGPT wrote an email, and you don't like it.
Yeah.
Like something here tells you this is not real. It's not human. So I'm hoping that as AI advances and images are being created, videos are being created, people start to realize that this is all fake. I want something real. At the end of the day, we want something real. And yeah, it might go like this first, but I think eventually it'll start to fizzle out, where people just want that raw, like give me an actual picture that you took of this
Yeah.
product. Don't give me an AI generated product picture. You know? And
Yeah.
I think people are gonna start to realize that they still want that rawness.
Yeah, it like always cycles back. It's like anything. Like it gets super popular, and like people are focusing in on it, and technology like escalates, but then whether it's 5, 10, 20, 50 years, it's like back to like, all right, remember how we used to do things?
Yeah.
Like it always happens.
Yeah.
So how do you like, because I mean, we were talking about HGAB, but you're also a creator yourself, and you also have your clients and campaigns and all this stuff. Like, how do you kind of balance the business, the creatives, your team, yourself, your health, like all those things?
So I own multiple businesses. Um, I always say that my biggest asset is my team. You know, I can't do everything by myself. And it's impossible to think that you can do anything by yourself, especially when you're competing against teams.
Mm.
You know, you think that the person that you idolize is doing everything by themselves. No, they have a full-fledged army behind them. And it doesn't have to be an army of people. It just, you can have 3 other individuals like how I have, or 4, because we have 4, I have 4 other partners that we could take over the world if we wanted to. That's, you know,
Right. No, I get
as
what
a
you're
metaphor,
saying.
You know, maybe.
You have that thought though.
I have that thought. My team is so strong, and everybody is so good at what they do in their respective fields that I feel like anything, and we always talk about this, anything that we put our mind to it, we're going to kill it. And that has been our mentality from the beginning all the way up to now. And I'm lucky enough to have been able to be with my partners for the amount of time that I have been able to be with my partners. You're talking about 12 plus years without a single argument, without a single, like we have clashes. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, thank God. I'm nothing without my squad. Like I am nothing. And I tell them that every single day. As much as I can remind them, I'm like, hey, listen, I'm just the face of this thing. We are HGAB. We are Resonate. We are, because our production house is called Resonate. So, you know, we have HGAB, which is the physical location that rents photo, video, podcast studios, and we provide services inside of that location. Then we have our production house, which is called Resonate, and we provide photo, video, podcast services on a bigger scale for brands and businesses. So because I have those 2 entities, not only do my 4 other partners help me run and operate the back end of things, I also have our awesome team that helps us run the forefront of it. You know, so we have producers, we have shooters, we have editors, we have studio managers that operate the studios. Like we're an army. We are an army.
Yeah.
There's about 15 plus of us, you know, that again, I can lead everyone, but not hands-on the way that I can do it when I do it with my team. So I'm like the visionary, the dreamer, and I'm like, hey, this is where I want to go. This is where I think things are moving. I want to start transitioning over to this place. And my partners start to create the processes of being able to do that. And then my secondary team will start to deploy and move in that direction. So that's the only way I'm able to run multiple businesses. And this year we are creating more businesses because there's more opportunities. And we have the ability and the time to be able to do that now because we've set such a great infrastructure between our team. And when it comes to myself, I am nobody.
You are not here.
I am not here now. No, when it comes to myself, dude, I always try to keep my life as simple as humanly possible. Like I always tell people, life is easy. It's just us that loves to complicate the shit out of life. Why? Why do we do that? So for me, a routine is the most important thing. To-do list is the most important thing. And vision. You know, if you don't know where the hell you're going, then every single day you're going to wake up being like,
right,
the whole place is on fire. And you're like, you need to know where you're going. And you need to set benchmarks to get there. And that's another thing, another reason why a lot of creators, a lot of creatives kind of fail, because they don't have that long-term vision, and then they don't have that short-term checklist of how to get there. So I try to keep my life as super simple as possible. For me, routine is everything. I wake up in the morning, I drink water. Like I'll give you my rundown.
Yeah.
I wake up in the morning, I do a grateful check. That's the first thing I do. I don't check my phone. I don't do anything. I wake up and I sit there on my bed and I'm like, oh my God, I'm alive today. This is amazing. We could do anything now.
Yeah.
I'm alive. I'm healthy. Check. I'm happy. We're good. Thank you, universe, for giving me another day. I drink water. I have a huge thing of water right next to my bed. I drink water.
Cold or room temperature?
At that point, it's room temperature because I set it up the day before.
Very important.
I take a cold shower to get me going because I wake up super early. Take a cold shower, put on my gym clothes, go downstairs in my building, go to the gym, get a 1 hour workout. After that, I go outside to the little pool area and I do another little bit of meditating and like setting the intentions of what my day is going to look like that day. I go back to the apartment. I eat. I take a shower. And by 9-10 o'clock, I'm at HGAB already, checking emails. I'm having meetings with my teams, multiple teams, to make sure everybody's on the same page. We're good. Meetings don't happen every day. Internally, they happen once or twice a week, but I think they're super important. I reach out to clients because in the morning, for me, I have to secure the bag in the morning. And what does that mean? That means if I need to write an invoice, if I need to go to the bank and deposit a check, if I need to follow up with a client, if I need to do anything, I'm securing the bag in the morning. That's the first thing I do when I get to HGAB after meeting with my teams. From there, then I just deep 2-3 hours of work, no distractions as much as possible. Because if I'm at HGAB, everyone is like, what do I do with this? What do I do with that? And I'm just like, figure it out. That's why you're here. But no, I love helping any way that I can. And I get pulled away, but I try to get as much deep work as I can. Then at 5-6 o'clock, I try to disconnect, which never happens because I love working.
Yeah.
Like that's my superpower. I will outwork anybody. And I don't do it just to be like, oh, I left here at 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. No, I'm like, I love this shit. Like,
hey, you'd rather be doing it.
This is what I love to do. I love to work. And it's funny because yesterday Biscayne, my partner, was like, I really appreciate all the hard work that you put in. You're the hardest working person that I know. And you don't even do it for yourself. You do it for all of us. And I was like, oh my God, somebody recognizes it. No, my team recognizes it. But it's so nice to hear from your life partner, right. And like, I was like, okay, yeah, cool. I'm going to keep going then. And then when I go home, I'll work some more until I go back to sleep. And sometimes I'll watch Squid Games right. or this and the other, but I barely watch TV. I'm on social media a lot. But not because I want to, but because I use social media as an avenue to connect with people. And I think that's how it should be used, to easily connect with people. I can send out a DM to a Fortune 500 CEO. Yeah. And he'll open it and give me a quick response or give me a valuable response. For me, I reach out to those guys and I'm like, hey, my name is Kendrick. I do this. This is what I want to do. I would love for your brand to connect with my brand. Da, 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 da. They won't read it, but I'll hit them up again and I'll hit them up again and I'll hit them up again. And such a great way to connect with people. And then eventually they'll be like, oh my God, bro, you're driving me crazy. Yeah. Here's the freaking email to the person that you're looking to find. Boom. And then on to the next, So it's a great way to connect. And I love connecting with people that way. But other than that, it's the same routine every single day.
But do you ever get like, because sometimes, I'm the same way. I'm on social media because I use it a lot for my work and to connect and all that stuff. But then sometimes it'll suck me in where I'm like, fuck, and not even in a bad way. Like my algorithm is pretty dope, but that's the problem that I'm like, oh, that's dope. Oh, I should do that. Oh, let me look into that. Or what's that? And then I'm like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. So this year I've made it a very important, I guess, new habit of mine that if I'm gonna be on social media, it's for work. You know, yeah, on my time off, if I'm watching Squid Games,
Yeah.
that means that I'm not working.
Right.
Like I really want to disconnect, and I'll probably go on TikTok and like
Yeah.
just see dumb shit on there. But other than that, I'm like just trying to be as resourceful with my time as humanly possible, and I think that's important.
100%. I wanted to ask you, like, who do you think's the most, maybe not, I don't want to use the word famous, but like well known, or someone that you were excited about that came through HGAB, or that you shot for or produced something for?
So last year we were fortunate enough to work. So because we have the two businesses, we do see a lot of famous people in our space or outside. Last year we did a really cool campaign with Stanley, which is the cup, and they had a Messi collaboration. So we got to work with Messi, which was super cool. But we've had everyone from, you know, our local rappers like Rick Ross, Kodak Black, a bunch of reggaeton artists like J Balvin, Prince Royce. We've had a couple of, we had Jake Paul in our space recently. We had Mike Tyson in our space recently.
For the fight.
Yeah, that was cool. We've worked with the Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
Robert.
The author.
He's been there, the author. Amazing. That book changed my life as a young adult, and I still use the learnings from that book till this day to not only run my personal finances, but the business side, even though we have a CFO that does that now. Grant Cardone, Mas Vidal. Dude, the list goes on. I feel like I'm missing so many people. We've even had actors from like Game of Thrones come by the studio and like shoot stuff there. Wow. I mean, dude, it's pretty wild because again, when you start something like this, you don't think from your house, you don't think that, you know, something like that, you can create something where you have so many famous people come to your space, come to you.
Yeah.
Which is completely different from you going to them. Like they're coming to you.
Yeah.
So that's super cool. Yeah, tons of labels that work with us. So they bring in a lot of musical artists. Yeah. It's been pretty cool.
Do you guys have the upstairs too now? Or
So that is something that I'm trying to acquire. We had it before COVID, but because of COVID, you know, we were trying to manage our expense, and we saw a small decline before we saw the uproar. So we had to let go of a lot of space during COVID. But this year I'm trying to acquire a little bit more space because the apartments upstairs lend themselves for a lot of cool other opportunities, like events, natural lifestyle spaces, because it is a really cool apartment and things like that. So I'm trying to either partner with someone that will go in with me on the spaces upstairs, or trying to figure out how I do that by myself.
Yeah, because I was asking because it's funny, like you guys were trying to live there in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because they had the apartments upstairs, but then I remember seeing them and you guys were using them.
Yeah,
as
you
like
remember.
Sets. And I'm
exactly.
Like, but I didn't know at the time that there actually used to be.
But we weren't living there.
Right.
That wasn't where we were living. We were living in the in the warehouse.
But it's funny how that works.
I really want to acquire that space, but I also need to think about, again, the future of how people are renting studios, they're renting spaces. And if I see that there's a big opportunity, which right now I'm kind of like on the fence about, then I'll pull the trigger. But if not, then I'll just be like, hey, let's leave it for someone else and let's focus on something else.
Yeah. I mean, creating businesses, that's a form of creativity itself.
100%. You know, a lot of people forget that entrepreneurs are creators.
Yeah. So the entrepreneurs themselves forget it sometimes.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. We might not be holding, you know, we might not be painting on a canvas, but we're creating something from scratch.
Yeah.
And we're creating something usually from necessity. You know, like the real successful entrepreneurs look at a problem and figure out a solution and then sell that solution to other people. And if there's a problem and you have the ability to create the solution for it, you're a creator, man.
No, 1,000%.
You're a
Then
creator.
you throw in managing teams, create like this, marketing. It's like, oh, it's all
But let me tell
creative.
you, entrepreneurship is not for everyone.
Oh, no.
It's a lot of work. There's high highs and low lows. And again, when you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna open up a space and I'm gonna start a business and all this stuff, you quickly forget that it requires a team to do that, and then that team is counting on you to live their best life.
Yeah.
You know, so obviously you're compensating your team to be able to do X, Y, and Z. And when the highs are highs, everybody's happy. When the lows are lows, and you have to kind of let go of a couple people to keep the business afloat and this and the other. That's when it hits you in the face that you're like, oh shit, like this sucks.
There's a lot of weight on you.
Huge, you know. And everybody's like, how do you do it? And I'm like, I try to keep my emotions in check whenever I'm thinking about what the next step is for the business, you know, because I have to look after the business first.
Yeah.
If there's no business, then there's nothing for no one. And if that means I have to let go of one or two people to keep the thing afloat and not mess with everybody below there, then that's what I have to do. And I had to do that during COVID. Everybody did as entrepreneurs.
It's tough.
They let go of a lot of their crucial team members. It sucked, especially during that time, that the unknown. But nobody could have predicted
No.
COVID, and there was no game plan for that for anybody. We didn't even know if we could stay open or closed.
Yeah.
You know, we called the city and we were like, hey, so can we stay open? And they're like, oh, well, we're not allowed to tell you if you can stay open or not. And I'm like, yeah, but I thought it was like crucial businesses can stay open, and everybody else like, I feel like I'm a crucial business. I'm like, what's up? And they were like, I don't know. And regardless, nobody was renting studios.
Yeah.
So we basically closed down for like a month or two.
Yeah. Man, at that time I just assumed everything was done. I was like, oh, DJing and nightlife, that's it. That's it. It's a wrap. Oh, well, what's next?
It's crazy, right?
But then, you know, everything comes back, but it's just different. Everything's different.
Everything is different.
For good or for worse, but it depends how you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to take it.
But there's opportunity in everything.
Oh, of course. And I mean, you could see it, like how people were able to shift and find new opportunities and new problems to solve new, like everything presents itself.
I think it's important to always have a level head, keep a level head, be positive. My team always says that I'm, what is it they say? They say that I'm toxic positivity. I have toxic positivity. You know, and for me, that's the only way that I can live.
Yeah.
You know, like if I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna loom and gloom, like, you know, then that's not fun. I don't want to sit there crying and like, oh my God, and like worry about everything that's gonna happen. I'm gonna sit there and be who I know I am, which is a dreamer, and just dream about the better days. Whenever we've had tough times, like when COVID hit and we had to let go of everyone, I literally stood at the table there with my partners and I looked at everybody in the face and I go, we're going to come out on top. Like, this is a small setback. We're going to come out on top. And lo and behold, we've freaking killed it, like, after that. And we were able to move and shape and still be here. It's crazy to see studios, bigger studios that have been around for 30, 40, 50 years close their doors because of COVID. And this little tiny studio that came from nothing is still here and up and running. And we're going on our like 10th, 11th year of being HGAB Studios and being in that space.
Yeah, I think like I try to look, especially over the last couple of years, I try to look at life like Tetris. Like I'm always, instead of when something happens that's not, you know, to my favor or an obstacle, I just try to be like, all right, like kind of like a game. Like there has to be something that I can work around this. Like make it like I gamify it. Like it's a problem, right? Like how can I solve it? Like
right.
You know, almost like when you're a kid, you're like, oh, maybe I can't buy this, so I'll make it. Like, you know. Yeah. So I always try to look at it like from a different perspective, not a negative or positive.
You can't. I mean, because that doesn't allow you to think. You know, like you said, it's a problem. It has a solution. what is the solution? It might not be what you want and how
Right.
you want it, but there's a solution, and it might take you to somewhere even bigger and better. And for me, it's like, I'm not going to trip about worrying about it. I'm going to trip about making it better. Like, I'm not going to sit there and worry about it. That doesn't do anything for me
Yeah.
or anyone. I'm going to sit there and use that time to find the solution. And there's a solution.
1000%. So I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I'll leave you with this last question. What does creativity mean to you?
That's a good question. You ask this to everybody, don't you? Damn, I should have heard a couple podcasts.
That's why I always leave it to the end.
Um,
But it's good that you're thinking about it, because it is like, my, not the most important question, but like, I like to get people's perspective on it.
being a creative to me means generating good ideas, concepts, and solutions that are meaningful, original, and valuable.
Beautiful, bro. You nailed it.
God, I hope I did.
Well, yo, thank you for coming through, and bro, thank you, like I was telling you earlier, for like, creating something dope from scratch, because I mean, that's a place that definitely always inspired me throughout the years, and like, I loved being in there, creating in there, and I take a lot of things I learned in there and being around you guys to what I'm doing now, what we're building. So,
Amazing.
I appreciate you and your whole team and everyone over in HGAB. What does HGAB mean, by the way?
Oh my goodness. So HGAB is, the H is for human, and gab is another word for talk or chatter. So that's where HGAB came from when we started the magazine, because I wanted to bring that human element into the publication. So human gab. So our original tagline when we had the publication was "We speak human." And that's when people were like reading the publication. And if you go to our building now, the sign outside is the original sign that we had when we had the publication in our house. I went out and I printed out a huge sign with our friends that cut it out of PVC, and we hung it up in our living room. And that sign is the one that, as soon as, right before you walk into the building, is standing right outside. And it says at the bottom, "We speak human." Even though our tagline now for the space is "Creators live here." So it's funny, but I kept it there as an homage to where we started and where we're going. So I thought that was very important.
It's awesome, bro. And I mean, it still resonates to this day, like, because there's so much technology, so social media, all this, but human to human is the most important.
Yeah. And then the second business is called Resonate. And it's cool that you just said it right now, because we work with brands and businesses to create content that resonate with people. So our production house is called Resonate.
There you go, bro.
So, it all ties in.
So just if you want to shout out your social medias, your team and all that, so where they can follow you.
Yes. So if you guys want to follow me personally, it's at Kendrick V. I want to say thank you so much to my partners and to everyone that has ever supported myself or my team or any one of our projects and endeavors. I truly appreciate you so much. And that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah.
Out.